So we're back again with Suzanne Muldowney, and this time we'll talk about Earth Day, right, Suzanne?
Um, I would like to discuss ecological matters. They were kind of stirred up in interest because of Earth Day, which first occurred on April 22nd, 1970. That's just 2 days short of exactly 50 years.
And it's an important anniversary, you think, 50 years?
25, 50, 75, 100, multiples of 25 are considered all important. I may have spoken before about multiples of 5 or 10 being made extra important, but even more important are multiples of 25, 50, even 100.
And why would that be?
Well, just because humankind's made a tradition of giving extra glory to anniversaries that accumulate certain numbers of years.
Oh, so what would you say to people who don't care about numbers?
Well, I'd say in the case of the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, depending on what years they were born, they should think back. Do they remember the original Earth Day at all? If they had been born by that time, or if they weren't born till sometime after, were they aware of subsequent Earth Day observances or general overall attention to environmental improvement or perfection?
You'll obviously feel strongly about this, right?
Yes.
So what should we know about it?
Well, one extremely important thing, which I did from the beginning once, because I was in high school at the time of the original Earth Day, I went into recycling, and when my parents continued to throw away objects that were now officially designated recyclable, and I had to rescue them or stop my parents from throwing them into the trash, they got sore at me.
So your parents didn't recycle? So your parents didn't recycle?
Well, they were my parents. They had been around much longer than I had, and Earth Day was a whole new thing to them. So they were reluctant with breaking the habits of just throwing out anything they didn't need anymore.
I see. So did they ever turn around, or they never recycled?
They finally turned around after a couple of years when recycling laws were made tougher. And also at that time, my hometown had what were called trash bashes. You were supposed to bring recyclables to a particular shopping center on the second Saturday of every month, which meant that any recyclables I was able to rescue accumulated, and my parents were impatient for me to get rid of them.
I see. So they just didn't appreciate you bringing like trash home?
They didn't go for my trying to stop them from throwing out items that were now designated as recyclables, mostly cans and bottles.
I see. And this is many years before your friend from Ocean City, Mr. Soifer, came up with a superhero, the Trash Man or something like that?
Trash Buster.
Trash Buster, yes. Right? Yeah. So was that one of your favorites?
Yeah, it was almost, yes, the original Earth Day was almost 20 years before Mark Soifer, who was then a director of public relations in Ocean City, came up with an environmental mascot called Trash Buster.
Yeah, that was a fun costume. I remember that. So, all right. So, tell us more about Earth Day. What do we need to know?
We have to recycle. We have to conserve our natural resources. We should return more to semi-rural or rural settings. That is, not to make housing developments out of every big tract of empty land we see, because forest lands, deserts, sometimes grazing lands. Well, animals were there much longer before the first humans ever appeared.
So, are you trying to say that we should move into the forests?
No, we shouldn't move into the forests to live there. We have to conserve the forests, because the trees and the water are natural resources, and like I said, they're the natural habitats of different animal and plant species.
I see. So, where do you think we should live?
What?
Where should we live then?
It makes more sense to remodel an existing home than to build a whole new one, because then because you build a whole new facility and you take away some land that previously was empty and free.
I see. So, what's the most important feature of Earth Day?
Conservation, preservation. I think they're kind of well, they rhyme, yeah. But the more important thing is that they're constructive activities. So
you said you were in school when the first Earth Day happened, 1970. So what do you remember from that?
Well, on the Earth Day itself, there was an assembly of the student body, and some ecological experts said that from now on we have to recycle. When it came to draining our bathtubs or sinks, we had to be careful of any residue that might be there. And we should stop using aerosols because of their effect on the ozone layer. The general idea was from now on we really had to be conscientious, because the Earth, at least its natural resources, were running out of time as well as supply.
I see. So you must be really upset in the 1980s, especially in New Jersey, when the big poofy hair was popular and all the hairspray young ladies were using to poof up their hair.
Well, I never bothered with extreme hairdos. I never liked them. But the atmosphere in 1970 was, we've got to be really conscientious from now on. Also, yes, students were told to do poster artwork. Unfortunately, the majority of the posters were doom and gloom, pessimistic, saying we've run out of time, we don't have a chance now. But I made sure that at least one of my posters offered something constructive.
Right, because obviously they were wrong. And 50 years later,
we haven't progressed. We haven't progressed as much as we should have in the past 50 years.
Right. So how do you feel about Elon Musk, who wants to send people to Mars?
What do we need to go there for when previous space expeditions, unmanned space expeditions, have proven that Mars is all wasteland, besides being much farther away from the sun?
Well, that's not my idea. I'm just wondering what you think about it.
It's a waste of time.
So maybe we should write him a letter and let him know.
I wouldn't know which individual to write to. I'm sure collectively all those various organizations or chapters or clubs, whatever you want to call them, are aware of the situation, and they hear complaints from, I guess, the public from time to time. But it's up to those people to decide: are they going to do something about it, or just sleep on it?
Yeah, but that was Elon Musk. He wants to send people to Mars. The same guy that makes the electric car, Tesla.
What?
Do you know Elon Musk?
Who?
Elon Musk. That's his name, Elon Musk.
Well,
I guess not.
Well, it's a strange sounding name. Is he from the United States or somewhere else?
Well, he lives here now, but originally, I believe, he's from South Africa. So did you hear about the electric cars he makes, the Tesla? He named it after Nikola Tesla.
I've never seen any. I don't know what they look like.
Okay, well, they're pretty nice electric cars. And but anyway,
you mean like the cars in the olden days that ran on electricity?
Well, the new ones. He's making them now.
Well, I mean, they're reviving something from the past. Cars that ran on electricity instead of gasoline.
Well, that's true. I mean, there was a original electric car back in the 90s, right?
Oh, no. Electric cars first existed anywhere between the 1920s through, I think, the 1950s at the latest.
Oh, okay, so I didn't know about that. But probably the first environmental car was the one by Flintstones.
What?
The Flintstones car. They were just using pedals.
The Flintstones were fictional characters.
So I shouldn't hold out hope to get one of those?
No.
No, okay. Now, how does Underdog feel about Earth Day?
There was no special story written about him in conjunction with Earth Day. There were the way there were for Thanksgiving and Valentine's days. The creators of Underdog didn't do anything special with him in terms of Earth Day. But there was one TV series that was environmentally focused, but it did not originate coincidentally with the original Earth Day. It came out in the 1990s. It was called Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Does that name ring a bell?
A little bit, yeah. I don't think I ever saw it.
I saw it. It ran pretty much in the 90s because there, the implication was we're running out of time. We've got to. This is the last decade in this century and this millennium. We must improve or perfect the environment in time for the 21st century and the third millennium.
That seems to be a pattern. Every decade, people scream about they're running out of time, and then it's 50 years later, they're still saying the same thing. What else is important about Earth Day? I mean, you were pretty adamant about calling me about Earth Day.
Well, recycling's the law, but there's still too many deliberate disobedience. The worst instance is in the workplace when the employees have trash baskets right next to their desks, their tables, whatever, and if they drink anything on the premises, then if they're allowed to drink any liquid on the premises, then they must dispose of the empty bottles or cans in marked dumpsters, which may be in the workrooms or maybe the conference rooms. but I found in my own workplace sometimes my trash basket gets full. I go over to a bigger trash basket to empty it, and these clear plastic drink bottles tumble out. Someone else may have been in my spot one other time and thrown empty recyclable plastic bottles into the trash cans, and when I empty the trash and see those bottles fall out, I'm forbidden to confiscate them and take them to the proper dumpsters.
Why is that?
They make a fuss. They don't want me poking around. I wasn't going to poke around. Once I saw a bottle right on the surface, or someone who was working immediately ahead of me finished a bottle of liquid, and then I caught her in action throwing the bottle into a trash can instead of maybe putting it in a bag and then taking it to a dumpster later on.
I see. So what you would do with people like that?
Well, I already spoke about it a number of times. They've got to be reminded that those articles are recyclable, and they must be saved for the marked dumpsters. Anyone who does it somehow will be penalized.
But what kind of punishment should they get?
Well, you mean in their individual workplaces?
Well, I mean, if somebody's doing that, what should they do? What should we do with them?
Well, for what I did, I would go to the staff, people higher up. If I knew the names of the offenders, then I would give them those names, and then the offenders would be called out or be reminded by the staff, you mustn't do that. But it's pitiful that they throw away their recyclables into trash cans instead of waiting until they go past a marked dumpster.
Right, but if there's no punishment, then no one's going to do it. Well, not no one, but those people obviously don't care.
Well, they will have their price to pay in the end when goodness knows the environment gets so badly out of shape. People will say, how could this have happened? And I said, I told you all along. You were throwing your recyclables into the ordinary trash cans instead of in the marked dumpsters, or you were too busy building new buildings in land which previously had been empty, and you were destroying the forests where many plants and animals depend on them for their everyday life.
I see. So who would be the one to administer that punishment?
I really don't imagine it being any human being or a group of human beings. Most likely it would be Mother Nature or God.
I see. So do you think maybe the virus is a punishment?
It's what I think was once called the Great Warning, but it has but the terms Great Warning, Great Miracle, and hopefully not Great Punishment were not based on ecological issues.
You think we should take care of the whole planet, right?
Why do you think that TV show was called Captain Planet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
I have no idea. No, I'm kidding.
Because,
I'm kidding.
What?
I'm kidding. It's obvious why that's called.
Because, well, you say you say you didn't know that much about it. You never saw it.
No, I never saw it. I mean, I heard of it, never saw it.
Well, what do you remember hearing about it?
Not much. I kind of figure out from the title what it's about.
Well, do you remember who and what the Planeteers were?
Honestly, I have no idea. I mean, I just heard the title of that show. I don't know anything about it.
Okay. The Planeteers were 5 youths from different parts of the world. Each one of them was given a ring by Mother Nature, and each ring controlled one natural element: earth, air, fire, water, and concern. So in every episode, the 5 youths were going about correcting some environmental issue on their own, and there were some eco-villains involved too. But near the end of every episode, one of the Planeteers always shouted, "Let our powers combine!" And the 5 Planeteers stood in a real wide circle and extended their ring arms toward the middle, so that it was like rays of energy shooting out, meeting in the middle, and then from that middle emerged Captain Planet. So Captain Planet himself was there for only a short while, near the end of every episode. When he was finished what he had to do, he disintegrated, saying, "The power is yours," and the various powers the rings held were restored.
So besides recycling and taking care of nature, is there something else we should know?
Well, saving certain kinds of animals. Sometimes there are crusades to save certain animals from being threatened or endangered species. Well, that's taking care of nature too.
I see. You said certain animals. There's some animals you don't want to save.
No, I just know. I've just heard the terms threatened species or endangered species, whatever specific plants or animals those are. We have to do our best to prevent them from becoming extinct.
So how do you feel about this? There's people that throw trash around and that recycling. Should we send them to Mars, maybe?
It would cost a fortune just to get the spacecraft beyond Earth's atmosphere. Besides, those people wouldn't have had any survival training.
Yeah, but they're polluters anyway, right?
Yeah. One of the earliest forms of anti-pollution was cutting down on energy consumption or use of leftovers. The phrase. There's the phrase reduce, reuse, recycle. You ever heard that?
Yes.
Now, I don't think it originated at the time of the original Earth Day, but it is valid. In fact, besides reduce, reuse, recycle, you have repair, redo, reserve,
repurpose.
What?
Repurpose.
Repurpose? Well, that's sort of like reuse or redo.
Yes.
So there are all sorts of other re's besides the obvious 3.
I see. So who's responsible for Earth Day? Since it's 50 years old, obviously Earth's a little bit older than 50, I would imagine. So who started this thing?
I'm sure it was really deeply serious environmentalists. We never learned any names at the time of the first Earth Day.
But I think it was John McConnell. But then there was also Senator Gaylord Nelson. And I think Dennis Hayes. There's a bunch of people. But, that was a long time ago.
Oh, all right. No, we'll see. If those people existed at the time of the original Earth Day, the general school student population nationwide was never taught those names.
Huh. Okay. Now, what grade were you in when that happened? With the first one?
I was a high school senior.
Oh, okay.
The first Earth Day was April 22nd, 1970. I graduated 2 months later.
And that was Nixon was in office?
You mean was Nixon president?
Right. Yes.
Yes, he was.
So did he do anything special?
I don't remember. There wasn't any mention of him in the papers doing anything great. I know his phone call to the Apollo 11 astronauts when they stepped out onto the moon was something significant, but that was just a phone call, and yet the newspapers and TV made a lot of hype over it.
Maybe back then that was hard to make a phone call. Maybe it was hard to make a phone call to the space station back in 1970.
But the call was just congratulatory, conversational. It wasn't instructional or informative or educational.
So what else should we know? Anything else, or we cover everything?
We have to make sure to keep our beaches clean. Now, if they're closed because of the virus quarantine, all right, but sooner or later the quarantine should be lifted, and we have to go back to work cleaning up the beaches, not just for our own use, but also for the marine life forms that live right by there.
Like lifeguards.
I mean marine life forms.
Okay.
Live in the water.
Right, because lifeguards only swim occasionally.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm all for clean bitches. I think that's good. All right, what else? What else do we need to know? Anything else? Or we cover everything?
I mentioned conserving natural resources. Saving animal and plant species in danger of extinction. Don't build buildings on land that up until that point was empty and therefore under its natural conditions.
All right. Well, thank you, Suzanne, for making a point, making sure that people are aware that Earth Day is, even though we can't go out to do anything, have any kind of celebration en masse, we can do our part and recycle indoors.
Yeah. It's so very important to recycle indoors. I would advise the masses. Well, if they stay at home, okay, that's the most important thing to do right now because of the virus. But if they have to go somewhere, it would be appropriate for them to wear blue and green.
Okay, because those are the colors of nature.
Yes. If kids or even adults want to draw pictures on Wednesday, they should draw some nice looking Earth site or maybe a half and half picture of messy pollution and on the other side a clean Earth. But one important thing they must do, if they draw the sun in their pictures, it's okay to show the rays emanating, but they shouldn't draw a face inside the sun. Instead, they should put the number 50.
Okay, so that you don't like the sun? I mean, face in the sun?
Well, well, it's really not appropriate now. This is a milestone anniversary.
Okay, so next year is going to be 51. So would that be less important?
51 is not an even multiple of 5 or 10.
Okay, so unfortunately, you would prefer to celebrate this one. We just can't really do anything about it.
We should do as much as we can because it's been 50 years, but we don't shirk our efforts once this year is over. We have to keep going at it.
Right. So we should do this every day, not just on April 22nd.
Correct.
Right. All right. Well, can we wrap it up, or is there something else to add to this?
Yeah, I should repeat what Captain Planet said every time he was through with his thing and disintegrated, returning the powers to the Planeteer's rings. The power is yours, or another way of saying it, it's up to you. It's up to us, to all of us.
That's well said, Suzanne. So on that note, we're going to wrap it up, and thank you for reminding us about Earth Day and giving us some important information.
I'm glad to have done it, and thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, anytime. And we'll speak soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye, Suzanne.
Bye-bye.